What's happening? My name is Rodney, and today we're going to talk about frustration.
Yeah, and I'm Keith, and this is the More in Common Daily Chronicle, where Rodney and I just chronicle our journey to get where we're going, to leave a bit of a diary for our daughters to look back upon. And we started it a few months ago and decided, hey, let's put it out in the world and get some feedback, build some community, and learn from others.
Has it really only
Frustration.
been a few months? It feels like this has been years.
I don't know. I don't know when we did our first one. It might have been 4 months, but yeah,
I mean, still, that's fits
yeah,
few. I
yeah.
have a friend who's like, "Have you guys run out of topics yet?" He's like, "I'm basically watching to see when you run out of topics." It's like, so I can't stop. I can't, no matter what. I was like, I'll talk about this AirPod case before I quit.
Well, we can't stop. Frustration, especially. Um,
Frustration.
yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
So, I mean, the conversation we had before this, sharing a frustrating experience, and then I think just managing frustration, and I think my original thought was around, especially with loved ones and close ones, being in close proximity all the time. Like frustration pops up, and for me, it brings out my worser demons, and I communicate poorly. I become harsh. I become unkind. Um, am just not my best self. So I kind of wanted to talk about that. Maybe talk through ways to mitigate it and like get better, like kind of workshop this because this is
Yeah.
something I'm actively working on. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know about you, but the more, it's funny. I studied psychology in college, and I think I'm more interested in it now than I was then. But the more I understand the biological process, right, the neurological process, and what happens with cognitive processing when certain negative emotions happen, and you start processing outside of your logical brain, your prefrontal cortex.
PFC.
And like the more I read about that, the more I feel it in my interactions. Frustration does the same thing for me, right? It literally shuts me down from seemingly be able to be kind, right? Like I literally get into this place where I'm like, I really don't want to be nice to you right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel it. And now the more I feel it, the more I realize I'm making a conscious effort to allow whatever my response is going to be. And I do this on the daily with my wife, right? Like more than anybody. We talk about the frustration situation that happened with a colleague that we were just talking about before.
Yeah.
Like, I feel that frustration to the point where it's like, I want to yell right now. Like, I want to call that person and be like, what are you thinking? What are you doing? Can we please figure this out? And that ultimately gives me the opportunity to step back,
Mhm.
right? Like just that pure acknowledgement, whether it's take a breath, whether it's feel the emotion and then try to move through it, or just take a pause and say, you know what, be mad about it, give it time, because 98% of the time for me, a few minutes, maybe even an hour will clear it, right? Like
Yeah,
just
yeah.
eh, distracting myself with something else. Like it kind of goes to the whole four things exercise where you name four things you see, name four things you touch, and name four things you hear in order to reprocess your environment. Kind of
Mhm.
brings me back into that, and it just brings me out of that. So that's one of the ways I've
Yeah,
started to manage it. Yeah.
I think. Yeah, no, I mean, I feel that. Like, I think I'm much more quick to realize when I've hit that fight or flight, that animal response. But it still happens, and like
Yeah.
it flies off far quicker than I could ever. Well, not could ever, but like I'm not at an advanced enough stage where I can catch it flying off the cliff. It's somewhere on the way down. Now it's usually not when I hit the bottom. Usually now anymore, but it's like somewhere on the way down. It's like crap. I jumped off without a parachute, and then depending on the situation, like I might be able to box breathe. I would say I'm not that great at it, and then with my daughter, it's been helpful because she's been watching Daniel Tiger, and Daniel Tiger has a song. It's like when you're so mad you could roar, take a deep breath, and count to four. And like she'll stop and she'll say like, "Oh, I'm so angry." Like she'll just say that, and
Yeah.
then she'll take a deep breath and she'll
Yeah.
start counting. and like she's self-regulating, which is amazing. And I'm like, oh, so sometimes when I get mad or frustrated with her, I'm like, oh wait, I don't want to be like, I want to be a good example. Oh, I need to take a deep breath and count 4. I just need to remember to do that with other people.
Yeah.
And I think, I
No.
mean, because patterns and behaviors and past, it all gets in the way, and it keeps me from doing that with everybody like I should. My wife, you. So I think
I
maybe I'm just trying to use this talk as a
yeah.
reminder to just be like, yo,
No,
like,
I think this is a good example of a thing that can be done. Like we need to have some anchor points in our lives to remind us, whether it's talking to somebody else or whatever. But you said two things in that
mhm,
really hit me that I want to conclude on personally is first, you said I should. Like for me, that's another thing I'm trying to really rewire and not say that's something I should, it's something I want to do, because it has nothing to do with a should. It's a that's where I want to be. Um, because what it ends up doing, like this idea that I get frustrated, it's like I talk about this stuff all the time in the podcast and the consulting and all this stuff, like why this is still happening to me. And so it gets, but at the same time, when I go back to the whole understanding of the neural process, it's like, oh, to actually prevent that from happening is almost a biological impossibility, right? Like if you
right,
could
yeah,
prevent
we're
fight or flight, like you would probably get eaten. We probably wouldn't survive as a
yeah,
as a as
we
a
turn into
species.
the people in Wally that are like sitting in the chairs and
Yeah,
they
and
can't walk
so
anymore.
accepting that reality gives me the space to manage through it without judgment, which is a big process for me.
On the first thing, because I agree, I don't like should. The tyranny of should, like
Oh,
it's a
a
rough word,
topic for
and it's
another.
not the
Yeah,
word. It's, I mean, because I could reclaim the word and change how I feel about it,
totally.
but
Yeah,
for me, should does, like, there's shame underneath it. Like
yeah,
there's, oh, I'm not doing it right. So
100%.
in your speech or in your thought, when you hear it come up, do you change it, or are you trying not to say it? Like, how, what are you doing? And this could be a
Like when
whole
I get,
conversation. I'm just
yeah,
curious, like,
when I get frustrated,
no,
you
no,
mean?
when you're saying the word should, period, like, what,
Oh, I,
how do
I,
you,
this is new. Like
okay,
literally, this is new for me over the last couple weeks. I think it's a lot of things that I'm trying. The one thing I'm trying is really to anchor, understand, ask the question. Like if I creeps in, like I feel like I should, I'm getting shame, I'm feeling guilt. Ask myself, like, who's telling you should?
mm,
Right? Like, am I telling me I should? Is it some voice? Is it society? Is it all these things? And then I try to pivot. It's like, okay, if I should, do I want to? Because most likely, if I'm saying I should, I probably want to. And then I try to reframe it into, okay, well, if that's what you want to do, then that's what you do, not what you should do or what you shouldn't do. It's just what you do. You either, in this case, fail or succeed, but maybe you make a mistake and you don't do it
it's
as
the
well as you
old,
wanted to, right?
it's the old Yoda, do or do not, there is no try.
That's
I
right.
mean, basically, it's kind of, it's a
I
version of
mean,
it, but
at the end of the day, it makes it a lot simpler to process it for me emotionally. Yeah.
no, that's good. Yeah, I was just thinking, just trying to get a tip there for myself, because
Yeah.
I say, like, it's so subconscious when I say should,
Totally.
and yeah,
And I've
um,
only recently become super visceral when I think or hear that word.
yeah. For you listening, watching, still here with us, thank you. What do you do? What do you do when you're frustrated?
Yeah.
How do you work through it? How
Yeah.
don't you work through it?
Let us know.
Holla.
All right. We're out.